The last time Congress was busy doing work between this week between Christmas and New Year's was 1970. Will it be successful this time around? Joining us now live from Capitol Hill is Republican Senator Mike Lee of Utah. He's a member of the Joint Economic Committee. Senator, thank you very much for your time today. What's the mood there?
Well, it's interesting. We're guardedly optimistic that something might happen. But what we have to keep in mind, Shannon, is that even assuming that a deal happens at this point in the next 36 hours or so, we will be leaving intact 99% of a dysfunctional system, 99% of a tax code that's unstable, that produces an inconsistent revenue stream, and that's gotten us $16 trillion in debt and has been producing trillion-dollar annual deficits. So we will not be out of the woods by any means if we get a deal. It might forestall some problems, but a lot of problems remain ahead of us to address.
If you get this temporary patch, moving forward, you name a number of things that need attention. We talk about tax reform, entitlement reform, the debt ceiling is coming. What appetite is there for any kind of cooperation on those huge issues when it seems so many times we get to this point before even just the most minor temporary patch is hammered out?
Well, the more water that passes under this bridge, the more pressure there will be from our constituents to get something done. I am sensing a lot of appetite on the part of a lot of Republicans and Democrats in both houses of Congress to move forward, to pass a budget, to get to the point where we are getting to balance. This needs to happen, and we have to remember that if we get a deal done today, that will not address all of these problems.
All right, according to one of our chief gurus on Capitol Hill, Chad Pergram, one of our producers who you probably know, he just sent us an alert quoting a Senate Democratic aide saying, "We've had a major setback in the past while." We still don't know whether there will be something hammered out on the Senate side, but if it isn't, where do we go from there?
It's difficult to say. We'll have to see how close we came and what it was that was the setback. But we have to remember that anytime you get into this set of circumstances and you have people on either side of the aisle trying to play political games, it's not helpful, and the American people as a whole will lose. That's why I was disappointed and a little surprised to hear that the president had done precisely that on Meet the Press just a couple of hours ago. The irony in that, Shannon, is that at the exact moment that this was occurring, Mitch McConnell, our Republican leader in the Senate, was on Capitol Hill working with our Democratic colleagues trying to iron out a compromise. And the other ironic point there is that we have been asking the president to show some leadership here. We've been asking for his involvement. And I hope that he will come to the table. I hope he will help us get to a deal. But political games at this point don't help.
All right, so much of the negotiation is going on just between a handful of people at this point, something that your Republican colleague, Senator Ron Johnson, was very upset about when we talked to him in last hour. How do you feel about that, and will you be willing as a Republican to simply step up and sign on to whatever deal, if there is one reached, that the minority leader has reached with Majority Leader Reid? Will you go rogue, as they say, as many Republicans have done over in the House side, saying, I'm not just going to go with leadership, I'm going to buck the trend?
Well, look, I'm never going to indicate one way or another whether I'm voting for a particular legislative proposal until I've seen it. So I've got to see it, I've got to have a chance to read it and study its ramifications before I'll tell you whether I would vote for it or vote against it.
Would you rule out a filibuster if it was something that you personally, having vetted it, couldn't agree to?
No, I would not rule out any option at this point.
Okay, so moving forward then, the GOP is now continuing to have to deflect this argument, that one that the president made again today on Meet the Press, essentially that your bottom line seems to be only about protecting wealthy Americans. Otherwise, you would have reached a deal at this point. You would have taken something else that he has put on the table. How do you respond? Well,
that's odd, and it's flatly inconsistent with what the president himself said just a couple of years ago. When he acknowledged that when you raise taxes on any group of Americans in the middle of an economic downturn, it hurts everyone, and it's going to hurt the most vulnerable among us the most. And so, I wish we had some more of those statements from the president right now. I don't understand where he's coming from when he says that, but more importantly, Shannon, this is hypocritical, and it's ironic for the president, who has refused to push through a budget that could get even a single vote in the democratically controlled Senate this year or last year. It's ironic and hypocritical for him to be saying that when he hasn't even pushed through a budget.
All right, Senator Mike Lee, Republican of Utah, we know you've got a lot of work ahead, and we do wish you the best, sir.
Thank you, Shannon.